What's good, Fins Nation? What's good? It's your boy Reason, and once again, for the third show in a row, I'm out here rolling solo dolo without EM. He's busy. He's doing his thing. He will be joining us at a certain point, but tonight we're going to go over some Dolphins news, some Dolphins discussion, and we'll go over some draft news as it pertains to the Dolphins, as well as a couple other teams in the NFL right now. Tonight I'm going to be joined for the whole thing, including right now, by the head maniac over at PhinManiacs.com. Go check them out. Jason Sarney. You can also follow him on Twitter at Orange Aquaman. So go check him out there. He really takes the role of the GM approach. You know what I mean? So he brings a different kind of flavor to what we're trying to do, but it fits right up our alley. So we're going to go over his latest mock draft tonight. He's got some interesting things, and they even tie in to what we're going to talk about later in terms of rumblings and news around the league. But this is a guy whose opinion I respect a lot. He's good at what he does, and I'm really excited for him to share his knowledge and his opinion with all of you guys tonight. So without further ado, guys, please welcome Jason Sarney of PhinManiacs.
Hey, everybody, and pleasure to be here. I really appreciate that intro, Reasons. Thanks for having me, and definitely ready to talk some Dolphin football on the draft.
Yeah, I know you've been a madman over there working on your different mocks. It's been crazy what you've got going on over there, buddy.
Yeah, this is the dream season for me. This is like you got the Super Bowl and you got like March Madness, which we didn't have. So yeah. I had to kind of really overload with the draft. So whatever hours I got, I'm doing what I can with the mocks and putting some content out there like yourself.
So let's just give a little bit of a background of you as a Dolphin fan. How did you get into all of this, Jason? Like, what brought you into, getting involved with PhinManiacs.com? What got you involved with taking the social media approach that you have and really becoming part of this, how do I phrase it? We're part of the media part of the social media community. What made you jump into that head first with the Dolphins?
Great question. Basically the short of the long is, I'm a Northeast guy. I'm from New York. I live in Pennsylvania now. I went to school up in Buffalo, so I've always been like behind enemy territory. I'm not a Florida guy. My parents live Boynton Beach. They like the Seinfeld Del Boca Vista for a couple of months. So, I'm always down there when I can. And I decided about 3 years ago, when my family and I moved to Pennsylvania, I was finally out of New York, New Jersey. I was out of true enemy territory. I don't have to worry about the Jet fans on Monday at work. I just said, you know what? I'm going to jump on into Facebook. I'm going to start writing. I used to write a lot back in high school, back in college. And I just decided to give it a go again. And Facebook to Twitter to now, I guess, to now YouTube. It's been a fun 11, 12 months. And I guess the perfect storm of what's been going on with the Dolphins has been really kind of a GM or a fake GM's dream. So I can only imagine what Chris Greer is going through in his excitement, having probably one of the greatest drafts in imagination in terms of the assets and the chips that he has. So for a guy like me, I like to think of the permutations, the different strategies that a team like the Dolphins could take, because I think it's beyond one pick. It's beyond one position this time.
Mm-hmm. And so when you say you think it's beyond one position, I know what you're kind of hinting at. The focus has really been on the quarterback situation. Are you someone who you're not really, how do I word this properly? Your main focus obviously isn't what we do at quarterback in this draft, correct?
You just used the phrase, word correctly. So I'm going to do, and you did fine. So I'm going to do my best to word my answer correctly. Look, we're Dolphin fans, and that means quarterback talk. That just kind of comes with the territory. And, I'm 39 years old. On Twitter, some people say, hey, boomer, because sometimes I talk maybe a little bit beyond my age, but then sometimes I try to act a little bit below my age. So, the funny thing is this organization has had a quarterback in Dan Marino for 17 years who is, in terms of passer, one of the best to ever do it. Forget rings, forget quarterback play and everything that comes with passer. Go back and throw the ball, maybe 2 or 3 who hold a candle to him. And that's like a maybe Favre and Elway in terms of throwing the ball, but that's a conversation for another day. He's had great teams. He's had teams with no defenses. He's had teams with a running back that was okay, a running back that was in tandem with 2 others. So to go back to the 90s, to go back to the 80s, to go back to Marino's time is tough. To look at the Tannehill time and all the quarterbacks in between, they never did a good job of solidifying the team. They sent out talent. They drafted well sometimes, but you let Olivier Vernon go, who had a very nice year, who was developing. You let a Lamar Miller go. Say what you want about him, but you should have to have some consistency with creating your homegrown talent. They have not done that. So in terms of this draft, you have 14 picks. You bring in 10 free agents, which really says a lot about what they're going to do with not using all those 14 picks. Mathematically, it can't work. So if you're going to just take 5 picks day 3, they're not going to make the team. You put 3 of them on the practice squad, you wasted a couple of picks. So there will be movement up and down, and it really is a matter of what the other teams do. I like to sometimes joke around, with my wife. Sometimes if you're in a car, I drive very conservatively. Don't worry about me in the car. Worry about other people in the car. Worry about other people on the road. I'm doing my thing. But if someone else works, you know what I mean? I react to that. So if the Chargers overreact and send an offer to the Lions could very easily call up Chris Greer and say, all right, Chris, I'm not going to tell you what team, but here's X plus Y plus Z. Yeah. You give us a little sprinkle of next year's A, it's yours. Let's do it. Let's do it, Chris. And then Chris is going to be like, what was that formula again before my whatever? Nah, you know what? Good luck to you. And that's what he did with Melvin Gordon. That's what he did with Todd Gurley. Why is Yannick Ngakoue not on a team yet? The Dolphins obviously didn't offer the sun, the moon, and the stars for him. Mm-hmm. What does that tell you? So I'm looking at patterns, and I'll tell you, if we had this show prior to free agent signing, we'd be talking a whole different talk. But now we have 10 new Dolphins. 3 were draft picks. When you think about it, you got a free agent who you signed in like a Camus Gregor Hill, who's a linebacker, could be a special teamer. That's a 5th rounder. That's one of the 5th rounders that you don't have to use. Now you could use that to package with a 4th to move up to the 3rd round to the 90s. Yeah. That's what I'm saying. So a lot of roads you could take here.
Because I've been pretty adamant myself that I firmly believe that they're going to move back into the top 100. I don't see them sitting from 70 on their hands all the way to 141. I just think that's, especially when it's 141, then I believe it's 153 and 154. Like that's a 71 pick gap. I just don't see it, you know what I mean, with what they're trying to do, because I think there's a lot of talent in the, in the back. You could go get a guy like Willie Gay Jr. from Mississippi State, in the 90s, right? Probably. So, and that makes sense. And back to Yannick for a sec. I just think what happened with Yannick was, I don't think with what they paid Ogba and what they paid Van Noy, I really don't see where Yannick was really going to fit in at what he was going to be asking for. I mean, we've talked about this on this channel before, where we thought the smart money would have been if they were going to invest 16, 17 million on a guy who's on a franchise and needs a long-term contract. What made sense to us was Chris Jones, the defensive tackle who's signed the franchise tag, because we really needed that nose tackle, right? And he's arguably, him and Fletcher Cox, the best defensive tackles in the league are him, Fletcher Cox, and Aaron Donald. He's probably the best in the he's probably the best nose tackle in the league right now. And I just that's why I think and I also think Yannick, with how he's playing it, man, and we'll get into it later, but this guy is really hurting the compensation that the Jaguars are going to be getting back for this guy. I mean, not only do you got to pay the guy, not only you got to have capital, but give up draft capital, but this guy is going out, and he's creating a PR firestorm for his agent in his camp. So what do you think about that? Like, I know we'll go over your mock in a little bit, and I know there's something involved there with the Jaguars, but do you think he's hurting his compensation? Like, to put yourself as a GM right now, do you think he's hurting himself in compensation of what you could get back with how he's handling himself?
I mean, look, it also depends on the organization too. I mean, there's like a regime that obviously is realizing he is an asset, but he's also a human being who wants to play his position, do his job for an organization that wants him there. So there's, it depends on what set of glasses you want to look through it. If you're Yannick, maybe step a little bit away from the Twitter. That's fine. But if you're an organization like the Jaguars, if I'm in the Jaguars, and again, everything I try to go with into the organization. So if I'm the Jaguars, I have a guy that I tag. Is it the right thing to do where everyone's holding hands? No. Is it right business? Absolutely. For your franchise, is it the nice thing for Yannick Ngakoue? No. But what I'm doing, if I'm the Jaguars, and I'm also a team in the Jaguars now that I'm putting on that hat, they like their London games, right? They like their overseas sales. This is a team that might need to do something wild, make a splash, like draft day. Remember draft day? You got to make a splash, right? The Jaguars have an unbelievable payload of picks. They also have Yannick Ngakoue. Now all of a sudden they have Leonard Fournette that they could dangle as little sweeteners with the 9th overall pick to move up to Detroit, get anybody that they want. Detroit can move back to 9 and get Leonard Fournette. You could do the same thing for the Giants, give them Yannick Ngakoue, which is kind of my thought process with the Giants. I think the Jaguars are the team that's creating a silent storm, and I think the Ngakoue situation, when it's all said and done, is going to be the first shot heard round the cyberspace, so to speak.
Okay, we'll get into your mock in a little bit without giving that all away. So back to the draft. Like, I want to talk about it. You're really high on Alex Highsmith, the defensive end out of Charlotte. Why do you love this kid so much?
Well, I always like to equate players when I see stories, when I see reasons to root for a kid or similarities physically or the game or the person behind the game. I always look to my golden era of like 93 to like 2003. Like that, I was, 12 to 22. That was the life that I really enjoyed the Dolphins so much. And they had success. So when I look at an Alex Highsmith, he reminds me of almost like he come from a mid-major. He's targeted in the 3rd or 4th round. He's Jason Taylor, right? Is he as tall as Jason Taylor? No. Is he, someone who is as explosive as Jason Taylor? He's a little stronger than Jason Taylor. Almost reminds me of a Cam Wake. So Cam Wake was a kid who was not drafted. He was an undrafted kid who went to the CFL, then tried out for the Giants. I think he went up and down with a practice squad runner there or two. And then he came over to the Dolphins, and he just literally became the top 2 or 3 pass rusher in the franchise's history. You average those two guys together, that was a reminder. Now, I also take a lot of things with a little bit of cosmic coincidence, for lack of a better term. I liked Highsmith from, I'm not going to say 3 years ago, 2 years ago. That's a lie. October. Let's call it October. I started watching him after social media and websites were pumping him up a little bit as a sleeper. And then I started doing some digging. Then he played my college in the Bahama Bowl in Buffalo. I went to the University of Buffalo. And it's not a Buffalo powerhouse. It's not a football powerhouse. I got Khalil Mack, and that's about it. But that bowl game was very nice to watch that kid, Highsmith, that I was, he reminds me of someone. Oh, he's good. And they did not play well, Charlotte. Buffalo, look, they got a Heisman candidate, Jared Peterson, that Highsmith was running after. You do your digging. You do your homework. You look at the upbringing. He was not a scholarship player. He didn't turn down Notre Dame or Clemson or anybody. He did not get a scholarship. He earned it. Give me a guy who's never had the glory, who works for everything he gets, and then he still hasn't seen a national title game. He hasn't seen anything like, massive acclaim yet. He hasn't tasted it yet. He's on the very, very beginning of what could be a very nice NFL career or more. So there's no bad chip on the shoulder. Maybe he has the good chip on his shoulder. You do more digging. Is he a guy who you're going to find on the police blotter? Never. Is he a guy who spends his family time with his family and, doing good things with his life? Absolutely. Do your own homework. You're not going to find problems. You're not going to find a posse behind him who's going to want from him. He's clean.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he had 16 sacks this year, and I think like 26 hurries. I think he had just over like 300 pass rush attempts. So he put up some numbers this year too, for sure. I'm not gonna lie. So when we touch into the draft, because you've been a lifelong, you've been a Dolphins fan for a really long time. When you look besides Marino, who to you do you think was the highest value of where we drafted them?
Oh, it's got to be Zach Thomas. Because, look, when I say it's got to be, there might be someone who's double my age and say, do you know Jake Scott was a 7th round draft pick?
Yeah.
You're right. But Rashad Jones was a 5th rounder. Jason Taylor was a 3rd rounder. But back to Zach. Zach did it he almost like cemented it for me. Marino was one thing, but Zach's the guy that was my first draft. A little quick sidebar on that. I was watching the Bob Hope All-American game, or the Bob Hope All-American induction, where they were running the players out, right?
Okay.
And I was 14, and I was just loving it. And then all of a sudden, this little dude from Texas Tech runs out, and I almost laughed. And then he introduced himself, and I just said to myself, this is great. This guy has to be a Dolphin. Just because I almost laughed at it. I saw some highlights from the Bob Hope 2 or 3 clip segment, and that was the first draft I watched throughout the entire weekend. It was a Saturday and Sunday. Lo and behold, on the screen, Zach Thomas, Texas Tech. And then the same highlights that they showed from the Bob Hope All-American 3 times. It was the same highlights. And then you hear the stories. You hear everything. You watch him go. And he's my 1A. My 1B is Jason Taylor. Similar reasons. And I love O.J. McDuffie.
Mm-hmm.
That hits out, Zach Thomas. He will and he should be in the Hall of Fame. And he was one of the best pound-for-pound players in the history of the game.
Yeah, he was Urlacher before Urlacher was Urlacher, basically. So,
other than the recency of Rashad Jones,
yeah,
it would be Zach and Rashad probably a value.
You could also make the argument that where Tunsil got drafted was good value too. Another guy that pops out to my mind is when you look at what he turned out to be, Minka ended up being very good value for where we got him.
Minka was the right pick.
It just didn't work out.
Gase had a problem with this. Minka had a problem with Gase. Whatever happened, more detail I can't tell you. Was the pick a Pro Bowler? Yeah. They picked the right pick. What happened was nobody's fault other than the people involved.
So, to you, is it clear cut that when you look at the flip side, that Deion Jordan is the biggest bust in Dolphins draft history? And does anyone else stick out to you?
That was a rough draft night for many reasons.
Oh,
that
I
was
remember.
That was bad. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was the worst draft I think.
Honestly,
In the 2000s,
for me, Brady Quinn was worse.
the Brady Quinn draft?
Yeah, the Ted Ginn selection. That ended that in the moment, the Ted Ginn selection to me in the moment was worse than the Deion Jordan selection. In the moment, I mean, obviously Ted Ginn ended up playing
It's
how long he
arguable.
played, but
That's fine.
Deion Jordan, we really needed a quarterback back then, and the hype was real with Brady Quinn coming out of Notre Dame.
See, the funny thing is, I swear to God, yeah, the hype was real Brady Quinn, but if they would have drafted him, I wouldn't have went nuts. I wouldn't have been upset. Probably would have been the guy to get. But Patrick Willis was around. Darrelle Revis was around. There was a huge miss by a lot of people all over that draft. The 2013 draft and the 2007 draft were Greek tragedies. They were horrible. And the Dolphins didn't recover since the Ginn draft, other than the Wildcat year. But, that was a fluke.
Well, and you even look at us taking Jake Long over Matt Ryan.
Tough schools of thought. Again, he was a Pro Bowl player. Would I have liked the quarterback then, retrospectively? Yes.
My thing was,
I wanted Ryan. They went long. I had to convince myself.
My thing was they went out and got a premium left tackle that you're going to have to pay without having the premium quarterback there for him to even protect.
Exactly. They've not timed it right.
Yeah.
And that's the problem where I think, like, when I talk with people on Twitter or debate or argue, I just want people to understand that you can't say, well, look what happened in 2007. Did they have two other picks after Ginn? No, they had the standard draft. So what happens in the first three picks this draft? You can make a miss. I don't want to, but you could survive if you miss on one, hit on 26, 39, 40. You know what I mean? If you hit everywhere else in the top 6 or 7 picks, you may miss on one. Whereas if you miss on one in the top 6 picks in normal drafts, you're going into the 7th round. This is the most unique situation on top of everything else. And I just think that it's quarterback. If it's a lefty, you got to get a right tackle. If it's a righty, you got to get a left tackle. Where's the center? The Dolphins used to have every decade amazing center. Where's the next one? Dwight Stevenson. Go back to the 72 team. That whole offensive line was stacked. You have Mike Pouncey, Tim Ruddy. Remember Tim Ruddy?
Yeah.
He's got a nasty dude like Tim Ruddy. You need the whole line overhaul because Dan Marino was Dan Marino, but he had the stats because the left side was locked down. Yeah. Richmond Webb and Keith Sims didn't get him touched. And then you had guys who he could throw to. You had the brothers before Webb and Sims. Yeah. But then you had OJ and Irving Fryer. You had Mark Ingram. Tony Martin. Remember Tony Martin? Heck of a career.
I think.
And then what happened?
I think the more issue with Marino not winning was, he only ever had one 1,000-yard back, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, and he only ever had 3 top 10 defenses his whole time as a Dolphin. You know what I mean? I think it was more that. And what's crazy? Like, I know you've heard it, but when you hear Bill Walsh talk about Marino, and Bill Walsh has basically said, in the West Coast offense that he implemented, he could have done so much more with Marino than he could have with Montana. So I think it was just a matter of Don Shula, he didn't, it's crazy to say this, but to me offensively, especially in the latter years before Shula, like when Shula's latter years, he wasn't playing to Marino's biggest strengths. And he he was just saying, okay, well, we're just going to beat you. He's like, we're basically saying we're just going to beat you with Marino instead of saying, okay, I'm going to get a run game to alleviate Marino so we can open up play action, a lot more things. If you got a threat in the backfield, it's a lot easier to make things happen and big plays happen, and it's a lot easier to score more points as opposed to sending a quarterback out there and telling them you're going to throw 35 to 40 times each game. You want balance, and Chula didn't balance it enough.
Go ahead.
No, I'm just saying you want balance to an offense. Even when you have an elite quarterback, you still want that balance. I'm not saying give him a top 5 running back, but if you give him a top 10 or one of those guys who's on the cusp of being a top 10, like the 11th or 12th running back, and then you go in the defenses, again, a top 10 or being on the cusp of being a top 10 defense, and you consistently give him that kind of stuff to work with, because he only plays one side of the ball, right? It was like, I know you've turned into a big Jordan Love guy. I don't know if you've watched the game he had against Kent State, but Jordan in the bowl game, but Jordan Love put up 40 plus points. Problem is his defense allowed 50 plus. You know what I mean? So
it's a similar situation to, a guy like Love, and I know we'll talk about him, but, to get back to, Marino, and the timing never was perfect. Imagine if Marino had one more year, but so you go into 2000, right? But imagine if the Dolphins traded for Ricky in 2000. Mm-hmm. Imagine that.
Well, they had the deal in place for Barry Sanders, right? And the Lions wouldn't pull the trigger, so he retired.
No, there was a lot of rumors. I mean, one of the reasons why I love and respect him so much is that, he could have been a Viking, he could have been someone else. But he just said, you know what? You're going to go to the Hall of Fame. My number is going to be retired. I'm a Dolphin. That's it. But in terms of them, just Bill Walsh had a team. Montana was the perfect quarterback for it. Would Montana have won a Super Bowl in Cincinnati?
Oh, no.
I don't know. Probably not. Probably not, But look who Montana was throwing to. John Taylor was the second guy.
Yeah.
He had Jerry Rice. He had Dwight Clark. Yeah. Roger Craig. He had Ronnie Lott. He had Bill Walsh. I mean, look at what Terry Bradshaw had in the 70s. Hall of Famers all over the place. Wide receiver, Hall of Famers at a running back. Yeah. And on the defensive ball. And a center.
Look what Jim Kelly had when they went to 4 straight Super Bowls.
No one could ever fault Jim Kelly for not winning a Super Bowl.
No.
You can't.
But that team is the reason why. Because they were built for the playoffs. When you watch them with Thurman just pounding on the ground on offense and then that defense just beating you up all game, that team was built for the playoffs, and that's why if it wasn't for that team, the Dolphins would have had another Super Bowl appearance and they probably would have won that year.
Yeah, the funny thing is, I had, one of my favorite players. I had Richmond Webb over on one of the PhinManiacs podcasts, and he just said, he shook his head. He said, those Buffalo teams, just couldn't get over the hump. When in the playoffs, or if they had to go up in November and December, they had their dominance against Buffalo, but they couldn't get over the hump. Richmond Webb owned Bruce Smith relatively. But you mentioned it. They were built for the snow, built for the cold, built for the run, for the defense, for when Kelly had to come back, they could. Yeah. Scott Norwood, you miss a field goal. Pete Stoyanovich, you miss a field goal. It happens. And that's the 94 team. It was a heartbreaking Dolphin team. Mm-hmm. But that was the year. That was the year.
Yeah, that was a painful one, man. I remember that as a little kid. And then I think that was almost as painful as the Jaguars and the Dolphins for Marino's last game. That was painful. That was pain for sure.
That's the time. Well, third for me was the Monday Night Miracle against the Jets.
Jets, yeah.
That to me was probably the worst sports night of my life. There's also a Met fan in the Subway Series down 0-2. So Buffalo. Everyone was Jet, Giants, Met, Yankees. It was horrible. But yeah, it's been a rough go. This is changing. This is the year to change it.
So Joe Burrow goes out 1. Who are you targeting for the quarterback position, and where are you targeting them in the draft?
Well, like I mentioned, I'm worried about the other drivers on the road. So I want to see what happens with what everyone's doing. If somebody does something silly and calls Washington, and then the next pick is Tua or Herbert, then all bets seem to be off. You might have to make a move. But I don't want to lose assets. I want – all right, I'll make everybody happy. Perfect world, easy world. If Tua is there at 5 and no movement, take him. Then you better trade up and get Jedrick Wills.
Yeah.
Because he's his buddy and he protects the left side, right or lefty.
Yeah.
I don't think he lasts to 5 because I think a team will make a knee-jerk reaction. Because there are 2 teams, at least, that can't miss on a quarterback because they don't have the rest of their capital. At least the Chargers. They can't miss, or else they're done for a decade. So they have to send 2 or 3 picks. You got a solid defense. You got a Bosa. You got an Ingram. You got an Aaron Eckler. They have a better team right now.
Yeah.
Than the Dolphins.
Yeah, they're ready.
They can send more picks. We can't. Let them send it. They're ready. But they're still not ready to play. If it's Tua, they can't throw him out to the woods yet. They probably will sign Jameis Winston or Cam or someone else. They have Tyrod Taylor. Sorry, they already have Tyrod Taylor. So there's right. Is Tyrod Taylor Charger?
Yeah. He's who they said they're going with. That's a starter.
They're gonna have the bridge if they go that route. I think if no one trades, if Tua is, and I think what was it, Kirk Herbstreit, as you referenced or told me that it just fell into their lap. If Tua falls into the Dolphins' laps at 5. It would be very difficult to say no. That's what I can tell you right now. But I do think something's cooking.
So with that being said, because I know we've talked about Yannick and everything, let's get into your mock draft. We'll go over it here for everyone. And you can explain a couple things that are, the thought process, etc. So we'll start off with what I have here. Life of a Mac. So I pulled it up here just straight up out of my email or whatever. So you have Joe Burrow going 1 to the Bengals. You have Chase Young going 2nd to the Redskins. Okuda 3 to the Lions. And then this is where it gets interesting. You have the Jaguars trading up with the Giants and then selecting Tua Tagovailoa. So run us through that.
Well, I'll take you why I think that the Giants and the Jaguars are connected. And if, again, I'm a New York guy, so I like to utilize some sources from New York. And these are all plain out there sources. Everyone could do their back homework. January of this year, it was a rumor through a New York Giant beat writer through ESPN, Jordan Raanan, very respected reporter, excellent reporter, a New York Giant beat writer said had interest in Yannick Ngakoue. That was January. Okay, so you go on, you watch the Super Bowl, you start doing some mock drafts. You see Yannick on Twitter. All right, maybe he's going to be a free agent. He'll get out of there. He was tagged. All right, fine. A couple of weeks ago, maybe a month ago, same ESPN beat writing reporter for the Giants said the rumor is, through his sources, the compensation for Yannick would include a first round or a multiple aspect of a first or a second of this year or that year. So here I am putting .1 and .2 together. The Giants don't need a quarterback. They do not. So all this Herbert junk is smoke. If you think they're going to take Herbert and do an NBA trade and trade the hat, this ain't Chris Webber and this is not happening. It's a totally smoked screen that I think is going to drop a bomb on everybody, because the Giants could get Yannick Ngakoue for whatever the whole package is going to be. And when the smoke clears, the Jaguars will rid themselves of this Twitter PR headache, move a little bit back in terms of their salary cap, getting money and doing everything they wanted to do with getting rid of Yannick, and they're going to pick 4. If they don't pick Tua, whatever. I still think they're going to make a trade with the Giants. Why do I think they're going to take Tua? Because you have Gardner Minshew for 1 year, a 6th rounder on that contract. You control that quarterback for 5 years if you take Tua. You rest him. The regime with money. You get him the absolute Rolls Royce of treatment. And the greatest problem that a franchise could have, 2 viable quarterbacks. Mm-hmm. And that's your Jaguars situation. And the Giants can now get out of a first round with Jerry Jeudy and Yannick Ngakoue to match with Danny Dimes and Saquon Barkley, and an NFC East that's really kind of open. And the Jaguars now are in an AFC South, red shirt at quarterback. You got Minshew mania. If he stinks, how's the rehab going to it? You want to prove that you're ready? Go. If you're a little scared, maybe they sign someone else too. There's going to be a bomb. There's no way there's a quarantine virtual draft and there isn't a shock. And if you think 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 is going the exact way, the exact team with the exact players, and after all this mess, Tua is just going to be there, give me what you're drinking. I want it.
So you think they would go Tua Tagovailoa over Isaiah Simmons, who you have the Dolphins picking, or even a Derek Brown, eh?
If the Dolphins pick Derek Brown, if I look at it, I'm not unhappy, because what does it do for the defense? It creates an unbelievably solid defensive line without even an edge pass rusher, because you have Godchow, you have Christian Wilkins, and then you have Derek Brown, which creates such an ease for your linebackers and creates an even more of an ease for your lockdown secondary. Not going to be upset with that if they have to guarantee moving into the top 10 to probably draft Jordan Love.
No, I was saying
what they did.
I was saying you don't think you don't think the Jaguars are going to take Derek Brown or Isaiah Simmons.
They could, but if they do that, then like I said, flip-flop Tua and Isaiah. The Dolphins could get that situation, but like I mentioned, I do think there's going to be a shake-up trade. If everyone thinks it's going to be Tua, but then all of a sudden it's Derek Brown or Isaiah Simmons, great. That's great. I'd actually be very happy with that, frankly. It would make the prediction perfect. It would make everybody happy.
Yeah. So you went with Isaiah Simmons on the fact that his versatility?
Say again?
So you went with Isaiah Simmons at 5 for the Dolphins based upon his versatility in the different places you can line him up?
In this situation, absolutely. Mm-hmm. If 2 is taken, absolutely. He could play linebacker, he could play safety. Kyle Van Noy, when he came to the Dolphins, and he prided himself on being a football player. That's where Brian Flores comes from, New England, football players. That's what he's going to look for. So I think that Isaiah Simmons is the best football player available there.
Okay, I agree. I would agree with that for sure. So then you have Justin Herbert going to the Chargers, Derek Brown going at 7 to the Panthers, Wirfs, which makes a ton of sense, going to the Cardinals. Then you have the Giants using that number 9 pick, like you alluded to earlier, to go get Jerry Jeudy to package that stud receiver with the stud running back and help the developmental process in terms of producing with Daniel Jones.
I mean, yeah, no draft in recent memory has hit exactly right. So does it make sense for the Giants to get out of the top 10 with a trade for Yannick and the best, arguably, top end receiver? I mean, their top receiver is no great shakes right now.
Yeah.
Saquon's amazing. You got to get Dan Ryan's weapons. Would anybody be upset in New York with that outcome?
Yeah, really all they have is Golden Tate out there and that young kid who started blowing up last year a little bit too.
You need that alpha. If you're the Giants, they can draft a receiver in the second round, which is fine, or the third. But if you have an opportunity to get a first rounder, which is basically Yannick and Jerry Jeudy, I think your quarterback will be happy.
For sure. So then you have the Browns taking their left tackle, Mekhi Becton, to package with their signing the offseason, Jack Conklin, finishing off that offensive line. You have the Jets going with CeeDee Lamb. You got the Raiders taking Henry Ruggs, which I see a ton of if he's there for sure. I like this pick. CJ Henderson to the 49ers. I like that pick a lot, actually. Then you got Jedrick Wills going to the Bucs at 14. Andrew Thomas to the Broncos at 15. Javon Kinlaw to the Falcons at 16, which again makes a lot of sense. Christian Fulton to the Dallas Cowboys, and then that's where you have us taking our quarterback. You have us going at 18 with Jordan Love.
The only thing I would say that scares me is, a Patriot trade up. But the only team I really fear that would trade out of the top 17 are the Niners, which is an option. The Niners and the Dolphins could certainly do business. It makes sense. John Lynch should acquire more picks. He's done after 31 until the 5th. The Dolphins can give them a 70th, a 153rd if they want. If they want. I don't think that they necessarily have to. So if you look at the draft, Love might fall into their lap. So if that is the situation, I'm really going crazy in happiness if you get a game changer on defense. Redshirt Love. I don't care. Let him learn. Let him learn the ropes. Let him learn the game, the nuances of an NFL profession from Ryan Fitzpatrick and from Josh Rosen. Best quarterback room you could imagine in our situation.
We got an interesting comment. By the way, guys, EM has officially joined. I'll be done blocking him in a second. I'm just going to get this comment up there. Infinite Trauma, one of our mods, actually knows someone who spoke to CJ Henderson directly, and he told him that the two teams that seem to be most interested in him have been the Cowboys and the Falcons. So that's an interesting tidbit. Infinite Trauma, thanks for sharing. EM, what's up, brother? There he goes. He's out. So I think he's just got some technical issues he's working on. So when we go past that, you got Clavon Chase on to the Raiders. So the Raiders taking two solid players in the first round between Ruggs and Clavon Chase on. Actually, I worry about them with Love. They're a team I worry about with Love because I know a lot of people, the word was after the last year's draft that Gruden was really infatuated with Kyler Murray. And when I look at skill sets, aside from the size and being a little bit obviously not as fast, to me, Jordan Love fits the profile of Kyler Murray in terms of arm talent, arm strength, athleticism, elusiveness, et cetera, et cetera. So that's why the Raiders that's a team that I'm watching because they worry me quite a bit in terms of possibly making a move on Jordan Love. But EM, are you here? You're good?
Yeah, gentlemen. How's it going? What's good? Can y'all hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you perfectly fine. Can you hear him, Jason?
I can hear you. Thank you for having me on, EM.
Oh, absolutely, man. It's a pleasure to meet you, bro. Pleasure to meet you.
So I don't know I don't know if you've been following along, EM, but basically what he had, Jason, we're going over Jason's mock draft that's going to be up on PhinManiacs, and what he had was because I assume it's because we didn't talk about this, but I'm assuming it's because the Giants lost Marcus Golden, right, in free agency, so they got a hole there on the defensive line. So what he has is the 9th. He has the Jaguars making a trade with that 9th pick and Yannick Ngakoue for the 4th overall, and then he has the Jaguars taking Tua at 4. And so because Tua's off the board, instead of us trading back with the potential team we saw that me and you have talked about with the Jaguars, because, Jason, we've talked about how if Tua's gone at 5, we're calling the Jaguars and saying, listen, you want to come up here and get Derek Brown? Give us the 9th and the 20th, and you can have the 5th. So that's where we're kind of at with that. But that's out of the window in this mock draft that he's got going on. So we took best player available, which is Isaiah Simmons at 5. And with that 9th pick, which makes a lot of sense, the Giants turned it into Jerry Jeudy. So even though they're not getting their offensive tackle because Wirfs is gone, they're getting Jerry Jeudy and packaging him with Daniel Jones and giving Daniel Jones another weapon to develop with. So
that makes a lot of sense.
It does make sense. I mean, I'm even looking here. So Jason, I follow along with the Eagles because I was a huge McNabb fan when he got drafted, and seeing Denzel Mims here at 21 as I guess if you want to call the Eagles my second team, go ahead. But that makes a lot of sense to me with what Wentz needs over there. So I'm seeing a lot of, and then now we got Trevon Diggs going at 20 to the Jaguars, and again, that makes a lot of sense with the holes they have right there on their team. So we'll keep going along here. You got Justin Jefferson going to the Vikings. Again, makes a whole lot of sense with Stephon Diggs. You got AJ Espinosa going. By the way, EM Herbert went 6 to the Chargers. You got AJ Espinosa going to the Patriots. You got Patrick Queen going to the Saints. You got Jalen Johnson, corner from Utah, going to the Vikings. And then you got, and I know EM's going to like this, at 26.
Oh,
Cesar
I'm loving that one. I love that pick.
To the Dolphins.
I love that pick.
So is this, we were talking about earlier, Jason, about how you talk about how every decade we've always had that solid center we can lean on. Is that what you're doing here at 26?
Well, I'm 100%. Long term, 100%. That kid might be the easiest Pro Bowl prediction in the first round. And if he lasts to the second round, if he lasts to the second round, people are losing their jobs because you put him in guard in Miami. You throw him next to, put him whatever side you want. And that's predicated on the quarterback you select. Put him on whatever side as a guard, flip him with Flowers. Ted Karras has the 1-year show me deal. He's a veteran. Best case scenario, you pick him up for 1 more year, you have Ruiz still be a guard, and then when Ruiz is ready and Karras is ready to call it a career or whatever, 8 years is the next best Miami center. 8 Pro Bowls. I love Ruiz.
I agree.
If they get Ruiz, I don't have a chandelier, but I'll find a way to swing from it.
I agree. I agree with that 150%, my friend. I think a couple strings back, Reason and I talked about the scenario about us, the possibility of us selecting Cesar Ruiz. My ideal scenario would be to prioritize left tackle. Well, obviously at pick number 5, obviously, it's no secret how high I am on Tua Tagovailoa. But I think even with the selection of Tua, I think the left tackle should be prioritized because there's basically nobody. We have nothing at the left tackle position. I think we can get by. I think we can get by with Jesse Davis another year, see how he develops at that position. But ideally, what I would do is with the addition of Trey Flowers in free agency, with the addition of Ted Karras in free agency, I would prioritize Ruiz, and I would plug him at right guard. And I think you can get immediate high-level production from him day one. And I think that would, I think our offensive line would be improved that much more. I truly believe that.
So yeah, Jason, the two centers I'm really high on. I like Biotish, you know what I mean? I like Cushenberry, but the two centers I'm really high on are Cesar Ruiz and Matt Hennessy. And I've been preaching Matt Hennessy's name for months, the guy from Temple. So what me and EM have talked about here is because, okay, we know. So like, let's look at this situation right here, okay? So we take in Isaiah Simmons, we've taken Jordan Love, okay? We still need that future running back because there is a future after. We need the Lightning to Jordan Howard's Thunder, who's going to be that future guy, whether it's DeAndre Swift or Jonathan Taylor or J.K. Dobbins. We also need that left tackle now because we have a right-handed quarterback. Me and EM have had the discussion, and we also need a safety. Me and EM have had the discussion. If we're sitting there at 26 and there's a left tackle there we like, there's a safety there we like Antoine Winfield, and there's also a running back we like DeAndre Swift or Jonathan Taylor sitting there. The question we've had is Cesar Ruiz so talented that it makes it a necessity to come off for a lesser need than one of those higher needs? And me and EM have kind of come to the conclusion that Cesar Ruiz's talent kind of dictates that we would be totally fine if you came off of a pressing need for a guy like that who's going to be a future need in a year or two. What do you think about that?
If I'm asked why I like Ruiz so much, there's about 3 or 4 reasons. Number one, you want a guy who could be an excellent pass blocker in Chan Gailey's system. And he was voted the best pass blocking center in the nation last year. He obviously could pass block from the guard. He's an athlete. He's equal parts run blocking. And lo and behold, the Dolphins were the dead last team in offensive line statistics, rushing, yards per carry, sacks allowed. A couple of these, they were tied. Quarterback hits, 154 quarterback hits. I don't care. You want Tua? Protect him.
Oh, I agree 110%.
Oh, yeah. And that's another reason why I like Ruiz, like we talked about before, why I wouldn't if we select him, why I wouldn't initially plug him in at center this year, because I think he's just a much better athlete than what Ted Karras is. And I think with his athleticism on the interior, it just gives you more options in terms of play calling, different types of schemes you can implement. Ted Karras, he's on a 1-year, $4-year, $1 million deal for a reason. He's a serviceable guy. But he's limited in terms of his athleticism. So I think you can get close to Pro Bowl production from that kid immediately because of his versatility, like he alluded to. So
let's keep going through the draft. We'll finish up this first round, and then guys will go over the Dolphins picks. So at 27, he has the Seahawks taking EM's boy, Yetur Gross-Matos. 28, the Baltimore Ravens taking Kenneth Murray. Tennessee Titans taking Marlon Davidson from Auburn. Jalen Reagor, the speed receiver from Temple, going to Green Bay. The Patriots trading back up into the first round to select Jalen Hurts at 31, with Jacob Eason still on the board. And then he's got the Kansas City Chiefs at 32 taking DeAndre Swift, which I know EM would be happy about. Then he has, let's keep going here. Let's highlight some picks. So he has Jonathan Taylor now off the board at 35 for the Lions. Xavier McKinney gone. And then this is where we get fun here. He's got us taking Josh Jones at 39, the left tackle, the power run blocker from Houston at 39. And then he's got us trading back up to 40 to select Antoine Winfield. So Jason, run us through this trade up to go get Antoine Winfield.
I love 4 safeties in this draft. So there are 2 or 3 positions that, look, pencil in 2 or 3 different guys. I'm just as happy. Winfield Jr. is the next Louis Oliver. I mentioned I love comparing my guy to my era. And if I see a guy who put him at free safety, put him at strong safety, he is a ball hawk. If he catches an interception, watch out. You remember Louis Oliver. I mean, he was trained going to the end zone when he would intercept the ball. Winfield return kicks. He's a football player. So if you're going to trade up, you got to go trade up and get a guy who could plug in immediately and could make plays. He is a guy who I think could be, what we really needed in Minka. Better, potentially.
Yeah, he's the number one safety on because we kind of have. The thing is, when I grade my big boards, I would have had Simmons on my linebacker big board, but I agree with what EM. Simmons is more of a positionalist player, and you can see even in Draft Network when you selected him at 5, they had him listed as an outside linebacker. So when we go off my true safety big board, me and EM are both in agreement that Antoine Winfield is the number one guy in this draft in terms of safeties.
I agree 100%. I love that kid. Love that kid.
So what did we give up with that pick, though? Because I see 56 where we were picked to move up to 40 to get Winfield. Because I see at 56 here, the Seahawks are there taking Bradley Anae, the defensive end from Utah, who's an absolute beast.
I'm glad you asked, and I'll tell you right away. It's actually pretty funny. I called up Houston.
Mm-hmm.
They need some picks. And I said to Houston, why don't you take your second rounder next year back? Just take it back. Take the 70th and the 154th because I got a Pro Bowler that I want. I'm not going to tell you who. And you know what? I couldn't care about next year's second because look at this team. They're still going to have 3 picks in the top 2 rounds next year. You never want to give away that Houston first. And then you have 2 Miami Dolphins first and seconds. So I gave up the 2021 Houston second back to him like it never happened. I still got my offensive line from Laramie Tunsil, so I don't care about him anymore. That's a net positive. So I gave up initially, really, when I think about it in my head, the 70th and the 154th to get Winfield Jr. Net 0 with the second for Houston next year. That's how I, in my head, play it. The algorithm accepted it.
And then at the end of the second round, you have us trading back up to the 64th. Raekwon Davis goes off the board. The defensive tackle that me and EM are really high on with what they want to do schematically in Miami goes off the board at 63 to Kansas City. And at 64, you have us trading back up to get Alex Highsmith, the defensive end we talked about earlier from Charlotte that you're really high on.
It would not be this high if it wasn't for this morning. This morning, you have Brian Boldinger saying how he's shooting up boards. You had Louis Riddick all over him. You have, Adam Schefter was tweeting this last week. Someone's going to go up to have to get him. And if you're going past the 70th, you're in trouble. So I think with all those day 3 picks, you use what you got to do to move up. Yeah. And that's a kid you move up for. A good, clean-cut kid who, you know what? For the first 2 years of his career, you play him on 3rd down. You say, Alex, sack the guy. He might get 6 sacks in the year, but he might rush the passer 80 times. And lo and behold, he got a sack almost every 10 times he rushed the passer. That's once a game almost on average. You know what I mean? So situational players, Flores can mix up these defensive players with who he already has and create havoc. Absolute havoc.
What do you think about moving up to 64 to go get Alex Highsmith, EM?
I'm not as I'm not as high on him. I don't think going up. I don't think trading up in this at that point in the draft. I don't think a defensive end. I wouldn't trade up at that point in the draft for an edge player. That's just and obviously for him, absolutely. I'm not as high on him. I think if you're going to make a trade up at that point, I'm gonna try to address the. He didn't address the interior, the nose tackle position, did he? Did you address that yet in your mock? I don't see it.
Not yet.
Not yet.
I don't think I addressed it yet.
And again, it just depends on how the board is falling. But if I'm going to trade up at this juncture, I'm targeting an interior nose tackle at that point.
And they're going off the board because you got Justin Matabuki and Neville Gallimore going off here at 72 and 73. You know, there goes my boy Matt Hennessy to the Browns. Yeah, they're starting to roll. Kyle Duggar 80 to the Seahawks, trading up for him. Clyde Edwards-Helaire to the LA Rams at 84. Wow, that's a good value pick for them with what they want to do. And then you got us moving up to 101, another trade to select
Cam Akers.
Cam Akers, who me and EM are very, very high on. I know I have him fourth on my big board, if I remember correctly. Did I have him third or fourth, EM?
I think fourth, I believe.
Yeah,
that's
I think I'm fourth. Yeah, I'm huge on this kid, and that's
a lot of value at that point
for sure. At 101, at 101, that's a lot of value. So what went into the trade up here, Jason?
Well, I think he gets the most unfair rap of any running back because nobody ran behind the worst offensive line for 3 years.
Sure.
And he ran off 4.9 yards per carry for his career. He's a good pass catcher out the backfield. He was an All-American quarterback in high school.
Yeah.
Maybe they throw the ball in a Wildcat, Ronnie Brown. I know the Wildcat's ancient history, but he's a football player. Athlete. He's a runner. He doesn't get hit the first time. He goes yards after initial contact, and he can go A gap, B gap. He can take it to the outside. And again, you see him a line, and you only use 12, 15 touches. That's Jordan Howard. 12, 15 touches for the runner that they draft. It's complimentary, not workhorse. You don't have to pay him.
Mm-hmm. And then
I love that pick.
You have us trading back up again to 109 to select a guy who was on my offensive tackle big board. I believe he was seventh. He was seventh or eighth. Right tackle from Auburn, Jack Driscoll. What went into this trade?
Good kid, smart kid. Transferred to Auburn, but worked his way on the team. Right tackle, it's a need. I traded to Detroit the 134th and the 141st. So throwing one of those picks into the fire to get a guy who really actually could solidify the offensive line. You have a right side in Josh Jones. You have the left side in Driscoll. And now you have potentially a line that is 3, 4, 5 years deep together to develop.
Mm-hmm. And continuing on here, just some picks I'm highlighting. You got my boy Tyler Johnson, the wide receiver from Minnesota, who I'm really high on, going to the Patriots. AJ Dillon to the Buffalo.
They're going to break your heart. So,
AJ Dillon to the Buffalo Bills to pair with Devin Singletary, and that is a very scary backfield if that were to happen. That's for sure.
I agree. I agree. Talk about thunder and lightning.
Oh boy,
that's fire ice right there with Singletary from Florida. Yeah. Dillon, that's a scary combo.
And then our next pick at 153, you have a guy who I've said on this platform and on the other platform I'm pretty high on, and that's James Prochet, the wide receiver from SMU.
Big fan of this kid. He might not be around here. Yeah. He scored 15 touchdowns as a senior, and that means he scored 12 touchdowns in a row. Boom, 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 boom. Imagine having that kind of consistency. Makes one-handed catches like Jarvis Landry. That's a little bit of a reminder. I love James Prochet. He's fantastic.
Yeah, great value at that pick too. I agree.
Oh yeah, I agree 100%.
Slot receiver. That's what you need. You need a slot receiver in Miami.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then you got at 173, Dane Jackson, the corner from Pitt.
dart throw. Now you're getting a little bit to dart throw picks.
Mm-hmm.
You need a little bit of depth at corner. No one's seeing the light of day at corner right now other than their top three. This is developmental. If you want to dream that Nick Needham, Byron Jones, and Xavier Howard will all retire Dolphins in 8 years, not going to happen. You need a corner to develop because you're not going to be able to pay them all in 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to get a corner that needs to learn from one of these top tier guys because in 2 years, he might have to step in.
Mm-hmm. And then at 185, you have us going with someone who, when me and EM were going over his top 5 schematic fits at defensive tackle, someone he was trying to find a way to bust into the top 5, and that's Benito Jones, the defensive tackle from Ole Miss at 185. I want to get EM. What are your thoughts about this pick at 185? And then Jason, what was your thought process with making this pick? But we'll start with EM.
Oh yeah, you already know reason I'm high on this kid. Yeah, I think I'm thinking I think that's very good value for a player at this point in the draft. I'm high on him. I think he's an ideal scheme fit because a lot of people projected him to go between, I think, the bottom half, maybe the second, early third to the 5th round. And where'd he select him at?
185.
Okay. So I am high on this kid. Huge 6'1", 325 run plugger. And all you need ideally, me personally, I would have liked to address the interior, the nose tackle position, earlier in the draft. But if this scenario plays out, comes to fruition, I think he would be an excellent pick for Miami. I'm high on him, very high on him.
And Jason, anything you want to add to that with your making that selection?
EM hit the nail on the head. He's a run plugger. He's 320 pounds, whatever he is. Could I have addressed this need earlier? Absolutely. But to me, you train a guy in a scheme who his job is to don't move the line forward. Don't let anybody behind you. Mm-hmm. The skill factor there can be molded. You want size. He's a big kid. He's played against top competition. If I have to grade on one lack of a pick that I made late, it would be the nose. But I think there was decent value here.
Oh, absolutely. He's got that low center of gravity as well. 6'1". Right. He's a prototype in terms of what you're going to ask a prototypical nose tackle to do in a base 34 front. He's ideal. He's definitely ideal. But again, I just think I just have a few other players that I love more than him. But at this point, I think that's very good value. Very good. And I would even entertain the reason I talk about this as well. Even if you see a guy like this fall, even if we do address that position earlier in the draft, and a guy like this with this value falls, later round of the draft, I would even double up at that position if I'm Miami.
Yeah. So if you got, if you were able to move back into
the top, because you know what they could do
and get a guy like Raekwon Davis either at 70 or by moving up into the top 100, and then you double up later in the draft with a guy like that, it just adds depth, especially with Godchaw and the impending money that he's going to be owed.
Absolutely.
I'm glad you mentioned that. Yes, he's going to be owed money, and he's going to be signing a big-time deal. And, they do need a nose. They 100% do. And Benito reminds me of like Vince Wilfork,
Absolutely.
Like 6'2", like 320, kind of low center of gravity, big body, just plug right up the middle.
Absolutely. Yeah, he's ideal.
Mm-hmm. So with our last two picks here, 246, you have us getting the inside linebacker for Florida International, Sage Lewis. And then at 251, KJ Osborne, the wide receiver from Miami. So just run us through these last two picks here.
Well, The 246 pick I like because it's, you know what? There's a lot of linebackers. But you know what? Give me a guy on special teams. Give me a guy who's going to be maybe a practice squad player. It's Florida International right down the road. Get him in. There's going to be a lot of local drafting day 3. You know, no one's going anywhere. No one's traveling. Clemson, a lot of Clemson kids day 3 might go to Carolina. You know, a lot of University of Miami, Florida International kids might go to the Dolphins, Gainesville, Tampa Bay, things like that. UCF, Tampa Bay. So that's what I'm thinking with those 2 last picks. But before going into KJ Osborne, for whatever reason, this model didn't have safety Jalen Hawkins. I was looking all over for him. They used to. California safety Jalen Hawkins. Gerald Alexander is now the defensive backs coach in Miami, who used to go to defensive backs in California. Hawkins, 6'2" kid, used to be a receiver. He trains, again, do your homework. It's right out there. This is not knowledge. He trains with a cornerback on the Miami Dolphins. Best friend, Nick Needham. Every day, all they're doing is training. They were best friends in high school. Look what happened to Nick Needham. Maybe there's a little whisper in the ear from defensive back coach Gerald Alexander. Might find 2 safeties right there. I like Bobby McCain and Eric Rowe, but are they Pro Bowl safeties?
Definitely Bobby McCain isn't. But I like Eric Rowe. I like what we got, the production we got from him last year.
I love Bobby, but if yeah, but you know what? If you're throwing a dart in the 7th round, and I'm a GM, I'm literally asking, who has coached college in the last 2 years? Give me your best. And Gerald Alexander is going to get up and say, my boy Hawk.
That's why
I think he's going to be a Dolphin with the 7th.
That's why I think Ashton Davis is a real possibility at that safety position.
Yeah.
I'm fine with him.
Yeah, I'd be happy with Davis or Wingfield.
Yeah, for sure.
Similar point, though, with Ashton. If he's the pick in the 2nd round, it's Gerald Alexander in front, and I love it. Work makes complete sense.
Fins up, baby.
So, EM, what would you grade that? What would you give a grade? If you're going to grade that, what would you grade that draft?
I'm a little cloudy on the first part of it.
It was Isaiah Simmons, Jordan Love, and then
in the first round. In the first round.
Yeah, exactly.
I can't give it an A+ because we didn't get Tua. We didn't get Tua in this draft. I can't give it an A, but I will say this: I do see. I like the idea if Tua is not available, you just get one of those blue chip talents. And Reason and I have talked about that, before about entertaining Isaiah Simmons. Maybe not Derrick Brown for my taste. I think that's a little high for him, but Isaiah Simmons is a generational athlete, and you can't go wrong with selecting him. But Jordan Love, Cesar Ruiz, I've been consistent about how high I am on Tua. If we don't get Tua, I've told Reason this, and I've said this on the stream in other streams as well. I'm gonna feel a little funny. I'm gonna be a little upset if we don't get Tua. But if this scenario played out, how can you be upset about it? You know what I mean? You solidified your offensive line. You've got your safety. And then I like the aggressiveness, how you try to trade back up higher into the draft. And the reason I talked about that as well, that would be my approach from the Dolphins as well. I would be trying to, because I think the sweet spot is between bottom of the first half, 2nd round, 3rd round. That's the sweet spot that Miami needs to target in terms of their needs. So I like the aggressiveness that you were trying to trade up consistently for players. So that definitely would be my approach. So yeah, I would give it I can't give it an A, but I would definitely give it a B+, a B++. Definitely. So.
I'll take it.
Very good, my friend.
Yeah, because one of the things they said is, if you get a Jordan Love as a consolation prize to Tua is pretty damn good. So
I think either one of them though. I think reason we differ on
and
go ahead, bro. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, in the defensive, if Tua is there, I'm not passing on it. So if that's the question, all you got to do is just flip Isaiah to Tua, and then Jordan Love obviously becomes maybe an offensive line pick. So I've been telling everyone, don't jump off the cliff if the quarterback don't like.
You won't find many Dolphins.
There's going to be different road.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing is, you won't find, other than, obviously Houts and certain people on social media, you won't find bigger supporters of Tua to the Dolphins than me and EM. The thing is, though, we don't agree with mortgaging the farm to move up to 2 or 3. We don't believe in that.
Correct.
The only way we said moving up to 2 or 3 would make sense as we see it is if the price was reasonable. If the price is not reasonable, don't even entertain it. Let them fall to you.
And my thing with the Dolphins is, reason we were just talking about this earlier this morning. I mean, the Dolphins, if you're going in terms of the value, in terms of the chart that they gauge the point system of each pick, if you're going by just the value, it only costs Miami a second round pick to jump from 5 to 3. I mean, and if that's all it's going to take, Miami really needs, if they're really that high on Tua, which I believe that they are. I mean, they gave up a second round pick for Josh Rosen last year, for Christ's sake. You know what I mean? So you wouldn't give that up for Tua Tagovailoa? They need to stop. They need to stop playing around and make it happen. And that way, I will sleep so much better at night if they just stop playing around and just make it happen. So, but yeah, it's definitely going to be interesting. It's definitely going to be interesting Thursday for sure.
Let's get into some of the news and the rumblings, guys, and we'll obviously we're going to talk about this. It's not just going to be quick answers. We'll go into depth or whatever. But let's talk about something because this is a good segue because we're still on the draft subject right now, and we're talking about trading up, right? So let me take away this banner right now on the thing, guys. If you want to, I know Fake Spike 94 asked. What's the link to donate the channel? There it is, guys. PayPal.me/Phinside. If you guys want to donate, we appreciate just the likes and the subscriptions, but anything that is donated.
I don't know what happened. Reason you there, bro?
I'm here.
Sorry. So
I'm still here.
Basically, I'm saying anything that is going to be turned right back into the channel, paying for StreamYard. I get the graphic work done, all that kind of jazz. So I appreciate all the love, subscriptions, likes. Anything you guys want to donate is just a plus. We appreciate you guys even wanting to do that or even having that in mind. It's nothing but love, guys. Nothing but love. So we're going to get into a few topics here. Few discussion points, if you will. We're going to wait for EM to hop back in here because I don't know why he just backed out. So, so you're not one of these people, Jason, while we just wait for EM to get back here. You're not one of those people that is adamantly against drafting Tua Tagovailoa, are you?
Not at all. Not at all. Not even remotely one of those people. If the Dolphins trade the 18, the 39, and a 56 to move up 2 slots, I'm furious.
Mm-hmm.
I ask why. Do they trade 2 players for a redshirt risk? If I draft him at 5, I'm fine. Mm-hmm. Totally fine.
All right, so let's EM's back, guys. So we're going to get back into we're talking about potential trades. We're talking about the draft. So, guys, let's start off with today. What's going on right now in terms of the Sun Sentinel article? in regards to us trading back up. So the Miami Dolphins are aggressively working to move up in the first round of this week's NFL draft, but it's not the number 5 pick that general manager Chris Grier is trying to improve upon. According to league sources, the Dolphins have had preliminary discussions about moving up from the number 18 pick with the goal of putting the franchise in position to land one of the top 4 offensive tackles in the draft. So guys, first thing, if Armando Salguero is right from what he said a couple weeks ago, where Jedrick Wills is apparently the top target for them when it comes to offensive tackles, that being a right tackle, doesn't that kind of scream to you a little bit when you go into the locker room camaraderie? They played together, they got into war together. Doesn't that kind of scream to, am I the only one who that's kind of screaming a Tua move? That's kind of screaming to me that, hey, we're going to not only invest in a right tackle with you in a top 10, okay, but we're also going to invest into you as a person by getting someone you're comfortable with having in that locker room. Because, guys, when you're in with your soon-to-be star tackle, Jedrick Wills in this scenario, when you're in with that, it's automatically going to get you in with the rest of the offensive line in a year or two once that offensive line gels. And there's nothing better for a quarterback than having an offensive line that's willing to basically take bullets for you. So when I look at this, am I the only one, or am I crazy for thinking that, like, I don't see this as an Andrew Thomas move. I see this as a Wirfs or a Wills move. So especially with the rumors that Andrew Thomas might be there at 11, where the Jets are kind of circling around. So how do you guys perceive this? Who do you guys think the target would be in terms of, would you guys think it would be Wirfs, Wills, or Andrew Thomas? Because we all know Mekhi Becton slipping. And again, I ask you, am I crazy for thinking that this screams they're going after a right tackle, which to me, that becomes a massive priority if you're taking a left-handed quarterback?
I don't think you're crazy at all. I mean, I think that it makes sense. But again, if I'm trading up to 3 to take Tua, I'm losing 2 picks, other picks, you know? And then at 5, I assume you take Wills, which makes complete sense, right? But then you realize you lose those picks. And what if, God forbid, you know, Wills gets hurt? And then you have 2 hurt Crimson Tide and 3 less or 2 less picks, then all of a sudden your team is now hurt, literally and figuratively. So I like moving up after drafting Tua, if that's how it plays with San Francisco, to get him before Tampa Bay would get Wills. Maybe he goes before, but there are other combinations and permutations. If Tua is the guy at 5, trade up to 7, 8, 9, 10, whatever, to get Wills, not
That's what this seems to be hinting at, that we're going to sit at 5, we're going to play our dice, and then we're going to move and because I heard this, I mean, I told EM this, I heard this weeks ago. I heard this about 4 or 5 weeks ago, that when they were fielding calls on the 26th, and the one pick they weren't taking calls on besides the 5th was the 18th, because I heard weeks ago that Grier was already eyeing using that 18th to get back into the top 10 to pick their tackle after they take whatever quarterback they're going to take. So to me, this just seems like it's cementing it. But Jason, if it's a right tackle, you're not mortgaging the 18th and future picks. Like, to me, if you're taking a Justin Herbert or Jordan Love, you're doing that for Andrew Thomas. You're not doing that for Wills or Wirfs. And I always go back to Armando, where he said the top guy on that board is Jedrick Wills. And the problem is, look at your board, right? Arizona just re-signed Humphreys, their left tackle, so they need a right tackle. So they're the team in the top 10 you're going to be competing with, right? Because the Jaguars don't need that right tackle. The Browns at 10 just selected Conklin, right? So to me, this screams right tackle. And I just what do you think, EM?
To answer your question, you're not crazy for thinking that, because obviously, you know, the right tackle, that's Tua's blind side. Mm-hmm. But I think this is what I think what Miami is thinking. And this is what I would do. First, with Mekhi Becton, we all know the man crush I have on this kid. With him, potentially could be sliding, maybe down out of the top 10. I think that would be the target if I'm Miami, because I'm just salivating at the thought of having him and Eric Flowers on the left side of that offensive line. Can you imagine the devastation that they would cause in the run game? Can you imagine that? That's like Eric Flowers is 335 and this kid is 355, 360. And I mean, they fit that. He fits that. I just think a player like Andrew Thomas or Mekhi Becton fits this power profile. It seems to be that Miami seems to be implementing. If you look at the players they're bringing in, big, physical, beefy guys. Jesse Davis is another. And again, I might be a little high on him than probably 95, 98% of the Dolphins fan base. But if you look at the size, look at the athletic profile of guys that they're bringing in. And I'm not saying that Miami is not high on Jedrick Wills and not high on Tristan Wirfs, but I just think Miami is prioritizing the run game. Flores tried to implement this scheme last year, but he did not have the players. He just didn't have the talent. He didn't have the guys up front to be successful implementing that scheme. But I think the target is Becton, is what I think. Him fall into, they might not have to mortgage as much. You know what I mean? If he falls out, to the back end of the
I think they could sit there.
10,
I think they could sit there at 18, and he might be there.
Well, ideally, I mean that would be the perfect scenario. But I don't think he's getting 18. I think this is for Wirfs, Wills, or Andrew Thomas. And you could be right. You're not crazy.
They're talking about moving back into the top 10 here, and you don't have to move back into the top 10 for Becton. You could do what Jason suggested. You could move up to 13 with the San Francisco 49ers, and you could probably get Becton right there.
You think so?
Oh, yeah, bro. I'm telling you, this diluted sample is going to –
Well, they're more desperate.
Yeah, and plus you got Josh Jones sitting there, who is a little bit more polished right now than Becton. It's just Becton's ceiling is so ridiculously high. And, that could push up Josh Jones, because we saw what happened with Tunsil. Tackles went in the top 10 when Tunsil was supposed to be the top guy off the board.
But again, moving to 12 is going to cost you less than moving from 18 into the top 10. So that, I don't think Becton is going to be there at 18. I don't think Becton. Exactly. I don't think Becton is going to be there at 18, bro.
I've said this before. If I'm targeting a team in the top 10, I'm targeting the Browns at 10. I let the Cardinals take Wirfs or Wills or Andrew Thomas, and then I sit there, and there's a right tackle there. This is all prefaced with if you've drafted Tua, and then I'm moving into number 10, and I'm getting whichever remains out of Wirfs and Wills, because the Jaguars, if they stay there, and the Panthers probably aren't taking a tackle, so all I got to worry about is the Arizona Cardinals taking that right tackle, and then I take whichever right tackle is left over at 10, because the Browns got Conklin. Then the Browns could come back to 18, and they could get Becton.
But think about this, though. Okay, if you make the move for a right tackle this year, okay, Tua's not playing this year.
Yeah, but I want to over this, brother. I want that. You're telling me if Tua's going to start in 2021, that right tackle is going to have a year of experience under his belt and not be a fresh rookie watching my guy's blind side. I want that 1 year of seasoning on him.
So you want to get Fitzpatrick killed this year? Is that what you want to do?
No, because you can slide in Jesse Davis back to his natural position at right guard, and I think that right.
Who's going to play left tackle? Who's going to play left tackle?
Buddy, we're only in the top 8-20 picks here. We still haven't used our 26th pick, and we still haven't hit the second round. Josh Jones could be sit. I've told you guys this.
Yeah.
Multiple times.
You're right.
My ideal first round is you get 2 at 5, you trade back up to 10, you take the right tackle that's left over, whether it's Wirfs or Wills, and then at 26, you sit there and you watch if Becton's sliding and he slides to 19, 20, I'm moving back up to 20 and I'm getting Becton, or I'm sitting there and I'm watching Josh Jones fall to me. And Josh Jones does exactly what you want to do. Tua won't have to. Well, Tua will see all the traffic incoming, but what's his strength? He's that power run left tackle, and that's all I'm asking him to do. Whereas with Wirfs or Wills, they're that power run guy, but they're also that power pass blocker. Like I said before, if I'm getting a left-handed quarterback, I want the rounded pass blocker and run blocker to be from my right side, and my really good run blocker who's a competent pass blocker to be on my left side. That's how I want to line that up, because I don't want to get into a point where I've got two solid rounded out guys, and between my two left tackles, I'm paying almost $40 million.
I just see a lot of Larry Allen and Mekhi Becton. I really do. He looks very, very similar to what Larry Allen was. And I look at his power, I look at his size, his athleticism.
He's got to get the weight, buddy. He's got to keep that weight stabilized, because
that was another Larry.
This guy's almost 370, and I mean, scouts, I don't know if you saw, but one scout was kind of critiquing him a few days ago and saying that he loves to cook. They were holding that against him, that he loves to cook, because people are afraid of this guy ballooning to near 400 pounds.
But I remember the same critique was on Larry Allen as well. So I'm taking a risk on that kind of potential. And I might be somewhat biased towards him because I got a huge man crush on him. But I'm just when I'm thinking about the potential devastation that we can cause on that left side in a run game with him and Eric Flowers, man, bro, I just hope, again, I'll be happy in any scenario if you opt to go with the right tackle to secure Tua's blind side for next year or whatnot. I get that. But I just think with them being in win now mode, okay, I just think Jesse Davis is worth another year of investment. He could improve. He could turn out to be everything we need in a right tackle. He could. He's still young. He's only like, what, 26 years old? He's just hitting his prime. So I think he improved the last 5-6 games of the season last year. And again, his presence at the right side, I just think, with nothing being on the left side.
If I'm drafting a guy at 5 who people have durability questions about, bro, I need a blue chipper on that blind side, buddy. I don't need a project, bro. I need a blue chipper, because you know what, bro? The one mistake a lot of teams make, and the Colts made it, the most recent team, bro, it's one thing to draft a quarterback. It's another thing to invest in a quarterback. And I'm not talking about financial capital. I'm talking about protection. And that's what I would want to do, invest in that right side. Jason, any last thoughts before we get on to the next subject?
I mean, you got to protect the quarterback, whoever you get. But Tua, you have to protect more. So the trade up after Tua, if that's how it goes, you have to protect the right side. So Wills, if you get Wills and Tua, let's see at the end of the day how many picks are left. That's advisable if at the end of the day you're not selling the farm. You can get that left tackle later very quickly. And then you still have your safety, your defensive end needs. And all the luxury might go, you might end up picking 9, 10 players. Get the offensive line solidified. I'm okay with that.
Okay, guys. So the next thing we're going to get into is something about Herbert right now, guys. So, look at Tua's Pro Days playing in the corner. Love it, love it, love it. Meant to be, guys, meant to be. So from Tony Pauly from Football Network. So the question is, who are the Dolphins truly targeting at quarterback and left tackle? So he says, a source close to Stephen Ross tells me that the Dolphins owner is talking as though quarterback Justin Herbert is not in the team's plans with the 5th pick. The source tells me that he feels it's either Tua Tagovailoa with the pick number 5 or a position player at that spot with a later maneuver for Utah State's Jordan Love, which he wrote about apparently last Friday, which I've been telling you guys about for how long. Pro Football Network has also been reporting since March that it's likely Love is the next quarterback on their board after Joe Burrow and Tua Tagovailoa, not Herbert. So who is the position player the Dolphins could take at the 5th pick? Sources tell me it's Andrew Thomas of Georgia, who would fill the need at left tackle. So, guys, what does this – first of all, can we now lay Herbert as the smoke? And especially on 420, the irony isn't lost on me. And second of all, what do you think about taking Andrew Thomas at 5?
I mean, Andrew Thomas at 5 is a little early to me.
I agree.
I mean, it's early. It's early. I'm not taking an offensive tackle who could tweak a knee, moving back in pass protection over a generational athlete. If I don't take a quarterback, I'm taking Isaiah Simmons.
Yeah. I agree. I agree 100%.
And what do you guys think about the Herbert situation with Stephen Ross?
I agree that he's not in the plans. He's not in the plans.
And Jason, I got to ask you before you get into it, Jason, isn't this really telling when Stephen Ross has been the most open in terms of management in the Miami Dolphins about the need, the desire, and the want to get a quarterback, that he's coming out and something like this is being said?
All the smoke, all the fire, all the this, all the that. They love Tua. They like Love. They'll deal with Herbert. Whatever happens, happens. But all this talk is talk. Here's what I think when I think about Herbert. Brian Flores probably not going to want the annoyance. And I know this might sound stupid, but just think about this. Who wants to teach a kid how to take a 3-step and a 5-step drop from under center? When was the last time he did it? High school? It's annoying. It's just annoying. Like, I don't want to have to worry about that. If you ever saw Major League 2, remember Rube Baker couldn't throw the ball back to the pitcher? Yeah. I don't want to have Josh Rosen. Imagine after 2.5 hours in July, all of a sudden, says, hey, Rosen, go take drops with Herbert.
Oh, buddy. No. We don't want Rosen teaching him either, brother.
Oh, my God.
You don't want the annoyance. I know it's stupid.
No, I agree.
I don't want to have to teach a quarterback how to turn, hand off to a running back, or cower up.
Jason,
I don't want that.
Jason, you're preaching to the choir. You can ask EM. One of the reasons why I'm such a love advocate over Herbert is because he loves mechanics from top to bottom, from the footwork up to his eyes, are in a lot better of a situation and in a developmental position right now than where Herbert is mechanically. And I get that people fall in love with the elite athleticism, the elite arm strength.
And I'm one of them.
and the elite size. But I've said this before. If it wasn't for Herbert and Eason, we'd be talking about Jordan Love having the highest, having the strongest arm in the draft. And what the thing is, I'm going to tell you right now. When you talk about arm talent, ball placement, anticipation, here's the thing, and you can watch it. If you go back and you watch, so when he came out of that first read offense last year, Jordan Love at Utah State, and he was forced to go to second, third, fourth reads to go through his progressions. If you watch from the beginning of the season, okay, I think it's the second or third game, he throws his receiver cuts out and gets in between the linebacker and the safety, okay? And here's the thing. When you watch Herbert try and make that throw, he doesn't add touch. He tries to zip it, just ring it right through. And when you watch Love, you actually see the progression as the season went on, whereas in game 2 or game 3, I forget which game it was. It was game 2 or game 3, and he got picked off by that linebacker. But then I think it was game 10, near the end of the season, you saw him make that throw. Perfect touch over the linebacker, right in front of the safety, where only the receiver was making the catch, and then boom, you saw that progression. But whereas in Herbert, and in one of my things in my evaluations I say about him, you haven't seen that growth and that development in his game over 4 years at Oregon. And that's one of my issues with him. When you go behind the mechanics, I haven't seen the growth and development that I want to see out of a 4-year starter. I get the elite traits that he has with the arm strength, the size, and the athleticism, but man, hey, I mean, what good is a paper bag? What good is a paper bag to hold your lunch if it has a hole in the bottom of it? So that's where I go with him. I mean, you can have all the athletic traits in the world, but if you can't turn it into production and you can't turn it into good tape, I don't know what to tell you. So that's where I'm at with Justin Herbert. I mean, would I mind him being a pick? I mean, I guess not, but I just know when you look at the top 4 guys, he's the biggest project out of the top 4 guys, in my opinion.
I agree. I just think there's too many headaches. Too many headaches with Herbert.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a little higher on Herbert than obviously you two guys are. Y'all are killing him. I just think
I hate him, but I just think there's a headache.
I look at Justin Herbert, and here's what I think in terms of my evaluation with Herbert and Jordan Love. I have them mirror images of each other. I have them dead even. But the reason why first off, I said this earlier, reason I was talking about this scenario earlier. I think the talent level with the top 4 guys in this draft, okay, I think that for them to totally bust out, I mean, be totally worthless, like a Josh Rosen type bust potential or a Jamarcus Russell type bust potential, I think that's minimal because of all of them are gifted physically. And when you're talking about Justin Herbert, okay, is he as consistent as a Tua, as a Joe Burrow, as a Jordan Love? I agree with that 110%. Are his mechanics on the level as these other 3 guys? I agree with that 100%. But I look at his overall physical package, okay? I look at him, if you recall, go back to when Ben Roethlisberger came out in the draft, Phillip Rivers and Eli Manning. This eerily similar evaluation that Ben Roethlisberger had. But they loved his arm strength. They loved his athleticism. And when I'm looking at Herbert, I just have to ask myself, are his deficiencies a product of what he did not have around him in terms of weaponry, of what the lack of NFL level coaching that well, not necessarily Jordan Love, but Tua or Joe Burrow had at their disposal that he didn't have? The offense that he was in is not, comparable to what Tua and Joe Burrow have. I just have questions that if he gets more around him in terms of coaching, weaponry, better offensive line, running game on the next level, I just think his overall athletic package, I think you can have a level of success, i.e. Josh Allen, and he's a much more refined passer than Josh Allen probably will ever be.
He's a bit more of that's the one thing, like I talk about Herbert touch over that intermediate level. The one thing Herbert does have is he has good touch on his deep ball, which Josh Allen doesn't have. Okay, when guys are running go routes and they're open, he'll place it there. Mm-hmm. And I do think he is a little bit more accurate than Josh Allen. I do see the accuracy. I do see the accuracy issues, especially at the intermediate level outside the numbers with Justin Herbert, but I don't think it's nowhere near a problem as what Josh Allen was coming out.
Yeah, so again, look at the team we built around whatever quarterback we select. I think Herbert, again, he's got elite physical traits, and generally, reason how we kind of differ in this regard, coaches, what they value most when you're at that position, they value elite physical traits, and he has. I mean, I call him the white version of Cam Newton. That's what I call it. And I think he's a much more refined passer than what Cam Newton. Yeah. Maybe even Cam Newton at this point is.
Yeah.
So what's that?
When Chris Greer said in his press conference that the tape tells us everything we need to know about the player, you knew Justin Herbert was dead in the water, brother.
Well, I'm not going to say.
They put on that Washington game, they put on that Auburn game, they put on that Arizona State game, and they're like, oh.
Listen. I'm not saying I prefer Herbert over Burrow or Tua. No, absolutely not. I'm just saying, in the event Miami they wind up selecting him. I just
feel like
huh?
I just feel like he's settling.
I mean, did Pittsburgh settle for? Were they settling to Ben Roethlisberger when they picked him at 13?
But I'm not
when he came out.
I'm not about to sit here comparing to Ben Roethlisberger, bro.
They're similar. I'm telling you, and he's a much better athlete than what Roethlisberger was.
And the situation,
they're very similar.
The situation Ben Roethlisberger went into. I mean, is there even a comparable right now? I mean, that defense was set. That offense was set. They had a Hall of Fame running back. Like, I mean, Big Ben went into a really good situation.
Listen. The team that they have assembled to this point, that is a very competitive team that they're going to be putting on. Hopefully, that they'll be able to put on the field day one in September. Okay, so any quarterback that we select, they are coming into a very, very good situation. The offensive line will be improved. We will have the running back position will be upgraded, and we don't even want to talk about the surplus of talent we have at the skill position level. We don't even want to talk about that. So in the event, what that argument about, well, Roethlisberger came into a good situation, any quarterback that we get, I mean, they are coming into a very good situation. So I just think, again, I'm not here. So we're clear. I am not saying I would rather have Herbert over Joe Burrow. I'm not saying that at all. I am just saying I think Herbert is a lot better than what people think. I think his overall physical ability, I think maybe 65% of the areas that he's deficient in is a product of lack of coaching, lack of what he had around him, and the offense that they was in, I think. So we'll see how this all plays out. But I just think I would be shocked again. I would be not happy, but I mean, if they select Jordan Love, that's fine. If they select Herbert, that's fine. But I don't want that to be at the expense of Tua Tagovailoa. But we'll see how all this plays out.
So kind of segueing off Justin Herbert then. So Ian Rappaport reported today a draft tidbit to file away for Thursday. The Giants have spent a lot of time researching Oregon quarterback Justin Herbert, a process that's included FaceTime conversations with Coach Joe Judge, per me, and at Mike Garofalo. New York Giants have been exhaustive in its draft prep at number 4. So, guys, what are your thoughts here? So what I see this, I'll tell you what I think, and then I'll get into your thoughts. How I see this is I don't think the Giants are getting fielding the kind of calls that they want. I feel like this is kind of basically saying if you like Herbert, come up here and get him. Maybe they bought into the smoke screen. But, I mean, is this really a feasible thing since they have Daniel Jones?
Smoke all day.
No.
Smoke.
100% smoke. Smoke.
So do you think that's just them trying to gain trade interest?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Because the past couple of days, the Detroit Lions have come out yet again. I think it's like their third time in like 3 or 4 weeks coming out and saying they're open for business. I mean, it's starting to look like these guys at 3 and 4 aren't fielding calls like we all expect them to.
No, because they want what they want.
Yeah.
They want, 3 first-rounders because bloggers say that's what it's going to take, or a simulator. But do you remember what San Diego and Atlanta traded for the Vic deal?
Mm-hmm.
Remember that trade? That was not a huge trade to move from 5 to 1.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It was Tim Dwight, a second-rounder, and a third-rounder with the flip-flop picks of 1 and 5. Who's trading all these picks? What they're doing right now, if you want I love Herbert. I might love him so much where I'm going to draft him and Ben Daniel Jones. Do you want him for a couple of extra picks? And in Detroit, since they're before the Giants, no. They want the team to call them to get a couple of extra picks because it's number 3. All smoke. I think that the Jaguars are the team to throw the fire. The Lions are going to pick Okuda unless the Chargers do something stupid. If the Dolphins land Tua, it's not because of a trade. That I'd be happy with.
Mm-hmm.
Not because of a trade.
I mean, that's ideal. That's ideal. And I think that will be a Miami's approach Thursday night. I don't think they're going to trade up.
They'll have a plan C. They'll have a plan Q.
Mm-hmm.
But they're good.
I don't think Miami's going to trade up. I really don't. And again, that's the ideal scenario. You get to talking about at 5.
After 5, you trade up.
Right.
Get
exactly.
5, and then if you want to trade up,
exactly
10 to 13, something like that.
I think that'll be the approach. I think that'll be the approach Thursday night. That's the smart play. I don't think teams, these alleged teams that are rumored to be interested in Tua, I don't think they're going to mortgage, an obscene amount of, additional capital to jump us to get to 3. I just don't see it. If it happens, we roll the dice and we don't trade up. If it happens, you got to tip your hat to them and move on. But I just don't see it. I just do not see it at this point. I really don't.
So, sticking with the draft here, guys, Kirk Herbstreit was on ESPN, and during a media call on Monday, ESPN analyst Kirk Herbstreit was asked if the Miami Dolphins, which own the 5th pick, would be making a mistake if they chose to pass on Tua Tagovailoa. And he said, and I quote, "I would say, yeah, that's a franchise that's changed identity at quarterbacks for a long time. And if he falls on their lap and they pass on him, I don't know how you do that. Anytime you get to the draft and you start speculating on quarterbacks, a lot of time you're throwing darts against the board hoping that it hits. But I think with Tua, there's enough there to really like. There's so much ability with his ability to throw the ball, but what I love is the intangibles that he brings to the table, his ability to process, and he gets through reads from A to B to C." So what do you guys think about that? Because I know there's a lot of people out there that are still banging the table that, hey, if he's there at 5, pass on him and get a positional player. I mean, do you guys agree with Kirk Herbstreit here? And I'll start with you, Jason, because I already know what EM's going to say.
I don't want to be the guy to pass on him if he's there at 5. So in my mock, I do truly believe that there will be that trade in some way, shape, or form. If Tua is at 5, you can't pass on him, but you have to hit the rest of the draft perfectly. Because if, God forbid, the hip's not working right, if you do want to try to win now, which I don't know if that's the exact situation, but you got to hit the right tackle, like you said. I'd like to get a left tackle somewhere too. It would make the rest of the draft very nerve-wracking for me, but I guess everyone would be happy with Tua. But again, it goes beyond that one pick. I'm not passing on Tua. I'm building around him properly, or getting best player available if Tua's gone, and then getting the quarterback when it's the most convenient.
EM, your thoughts?
Again, I agree 100%. Yeah, Tua, Tua's the target. I think he will be the target Thursday. But yeah, I agree with him 100%. You have to. Everybody, pretty much the Dolphin fan base seems to be focused in on that number 5 pick. Is it going to be a quarterback? And it seems like they're consumed with the quarterback position and that number 5 pick, and they're just not, considering the additional capital that we have. Man, they have to. And again, if you select Tua, and God forbid, I'm knocking on wood right now, he busts out or he gets hurt again, has a catastrophic injury, it just doesn't work out. At least if you hit on the additional capital that, in rounds 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7, you have assembled and acquired a overall balanced roster. And again, you can, if that does turn out to be the case, you can always find a quarterback in free agency, or with the additional capital you have next year and the year after, you can always go back and select a quarterback, and then you're pretty much 90% of your roster is already built. You know what I mean? So I think the focus needs to be more on building, assembling an overall balanced roster and take that approach. But again, I don't think Tua is gonna. I think Tua is gonna be, I think his ceiling is gonna be extremely high. And but yeah, you have to focus on building the rest of this roster up, building the overall depth. We're in an excellent position to do that.
And one last quote from Kirk Herbstreit here that I wanted to tell everyone. So he said, and I quote, from an intangible standpoint, you're a 10 out of 10. He's a 12 out of 10 as far as the linemen will love him. The receivers will love him. The defensive linemen will love him. The coaching staff will love him. The trainers, the team doctor, the secretaries, the fans. I don't know if I've ever covered a guy who checked every box as far as intangibles are concerned. His competitive nature, his ability to read coverage and come off of a read and come to that second or third option and not panic.
Yeah, I think that's the most underrated aspect of his game is his vision. I mean, his ability to diagnose and, again, just so fast, go from one read to second, third, fourth, and then come back. You know, it's like next level. And it's a reason why, and I hate, you know, a lot of our fan base, they think that, you know, Tua is all hype and you know, he's all, you know, it's like a campaign to, you know, prop him up on some kind of pedestal. That is not the case. And my response to those individuals that say that is, please get in the film room and please sit down and really evaluate this kid's tape, because it is next level. It's a reason why all these. When have you ever seen, to my knowledge, I haven't seen so many individuals in the media, on coaches on other teams, coaches in the NFL that have came out and gave that favorable of evaluation to a prospect at this stage. I haven't seen that, to my knowledge.
Look what the Clemson coach, Dabo Sweeney, just said about him, right? He said, I wouldn't hesitate. I would draft him right away. Absolutely.
I mean, Louis Riddick on ESPN, you know what I mean? Colin Cowherd. I mean, these guys, it's a reason why. And
Dan Orlovsky.
It's filmed. Dan Orlovsky as well. And it's film-based. Everything is film-based when you're talking about your evaluation from this player. And I just really think he should be the target in Miami. I think for not just his on-the-field potential, but his off-the-field potential. I just think the NFL in general needs to hear his voice. Not the NFL in general, especially, you know, South Florida. I just think this kid, he checks too many boxes, and he referenced intangibles off the charts. And what have Chris Greer and Brian Flores been consistent about, of the trait that they look for in a quarterback, the it factor, intangibles. That's the first thing that comes out of their mouth when they're talking about what they look, when they're being asked about what they look for in a potential quarterback. That's the first thing comes out of their mouth. So he checks everything.
I don't disagree with anything you said, but 31 other teams might really agree. And that's the thing. I'm not passing on Tua, but I think someone's leapfrogging the Dolphins. If everyone thinks that he's that good, Dolphins pick number 5, not number 1. Maybe the Bengals should take him if he's that good. That's my thing.
I think if he didn't have the durability issues, I think he would. Absolutely, it would be a real possibility.
But that's the thing.
Yeah.
Well,
it's concerning.
To be honest,
I have to admit,
we're only in the running for Tua right now because of the hip injury. If it wasn't for the hip injury, those last 6 games, winning 5 out of the last 6, we would have played ourselves out of Tua.
100%.
Yeah. So but I will say this about Burrow. I'm sorry, go ahead, Reason.
Oh, go ahead, because I'm going to move on to the next thing, so say it.
Oh, no, I was just going to say about Burrow. I've been watching more tape on Burrow. Man, a lot of that kid's film is breathtaking as well. So I can definitely see why Miami is so – I can definitely see why Miami is definitely – there's a high level of interest there. I mean, man, this kid – he's impressive as well. But yeah, go ahead, Reason.
So Peter King suggested Josh Rosen to Jacksonville for a 4th-round pick in his Monday morning quarterback. What do you guys feel about that? Is that even feasible? Because I think a 4th round is steep for what Jacksonville would have to give up for him in terms of what they'd be getting back. What do you guys think about that?
Oh man, sign me up.
I think maybe for a year, see what happens.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that's a good move.
I actually said at this point, I responded to someone who asked me about this on Twitter, and I said at this point I'd take a bag of balls or a tackling machine. So that's what I said.
If Miami can recover, if Miami can recoup a 4th-round pick for Josh Rosen, sign me up.
Well, you know what I'd do, right?
Yesterday.
You know what I'd do?
Yesterday.
I'd turn that 4th-round pick into James Morgan from Florida International.
Yeah, exactly. There you go.
Not bad.
There you go.
That's what I would personally do, because I think that's I think Morgan will beat out Ruddock, and I think he beat out Rosen no problem. And the thing with Tua, I've said that I'm on board if they want to go the RG3 Cousins way, where they get a James Morgan or an Anthony Gordon or a Cole McDonald late in the draft as kind of being a little bit of insurance and someone whom your coaching staff can grow and develop from the bottom up, not Josh Rosen, who we got from the Arizona as basically damaged goods. So that's where I'm at with that whole situation.
Do you think that there might be, is that something that he might be hearing whispers of? Or because Peter King, man, I've never known him to just throw nuggets out there. It has to be, something has to be behind, whenever he's bringing up a story or a potential trade or whatnot. It's always something behind that. So do you think? I don't think necessarily that he's just putting that out there. Could it be that he's hearing whispers?
I definitely think the Dolphins have tried to gauge what his trade value is.
Absolutely.
Because when you look at even adding Tua, Jordan Love. Yeah, I know that's a problem. I mean, but even adding Tua, Jordan Love, or Herbert or whatever, you already have Ruddock signed to a futures contract, so he can't go back to the practice squad. You have Rosen up on a rookie contract, and you have Fitz. So even just taking a guy with the 15th or 18th, you're adding a 4th quarterback to the room. And I said this, EM, if you remember on TD's platform, when they signed Jake Ruddock to that futures contract, I told Ballgame and everyone, look out, because that shows they got some kind of future plans for him, because he can't go back to the practice squad. And last preseason, Ruddock actually looked pretty good. He looked better than what Rosen looked. So to me, that's lining up where they're saying Jake Ruddock, as of now, is going to be their future number 2 behind whoever they draft, unless they take a 2nd quarterback in the draft as well.
I agree 100%. I agree 110%.
What do you think, Jason?
I'm with you there. Yeah, I mean, Fitz has 1 year left. Rosen could be gone. You need others. Ruddock has that deal. Tua, Ruddock, whomever, Love, Ruddock, whoever. Yeah, in 2 years, I see that.
Yeah, the Ruddock futures contract it's telling without basically saying much. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So Adam Schefter, going on to the draft, guys, because I know everyone's worried about this virtual draft. And Adam Schefter sent out today that he got a text from a participant on the NFL's mock draft that started at 1 p.m. Eastern earlier today. And he said the mock draft today, already technical glitches with Cincinnati's first pick. Brutal. Guys, is this going to be a serious issue? Because I know they released yesterday, the NFL said that they're willing to basically delay and extend delayed time if they have any technical errors last night, right? It's not going to just be the 2-minute clock or whatever. They've come out and said that, hey, if they're having technical errors, they're going to extend the delay between picks. So, guys, do you foresee this being a serious, serious issue on draft night?
I don't. I think by then they'll have everything, all the kinks worked out, and I don't see it being a serious issue. No, I don't, not at all.
Agreed. They'll get it all out now.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's an easy one to get by. So our last topic we'll go over. We kind of alluded to it earlier. I'll go through the whole thread here, guys. But Yannick Ngakoue is kind of throwing his trade value to the wind today, and really affecting basically, you know, when I looked at what Jason had done, I think that's a realistic scenario in terms of, you know, the Giants lost Marcus Gold and they could use a guy like Yannick. But with what he's doing on Twitter, guys, you know, so as we all know, Ngakoue has already been kind of his own free Yannick, and he's been doing his whole spiel for the last couple of weeks since the whole franchise tag thing came down. So he hit up Tony Khan today, and in case you don't know, Tony Khan is the son of the owner Shad Khan. He basically runs the team they own in the Premier League, while he also does a bunch of stuff for the Jacksonville Jaguars, and he's also the CEO and president of All Elite Wrestling. So Yannick hit him up and said, "At Tony Khan, stop hiding, Mo." So Tony Khan responded saying, I'm not in hiding, sir. I'm in isolation, getting ready for the draft. I've been pretty active on social media in isolation, but you wouldn't know that since you unfollowed me again." And Yannick responded, said, "Since you're feeling mighty today, let's both let the world in on the truth. We've had a discussion that the Chargers game was my last game, yet you try to backdoor the situation without answering any of my camp's calls. Shaking my head, you spoiled, bruh. Holding up people for no reason, clown emoji." Tony Khan then turned around and said, "It's a new regime here, sir. I thank you from the bottom of my heart for all of the contributions you made here. That said, tweeting insults at me won't get you traded any faster. Only good trade conversation will do that. Please reflect your efforts into a more productive outlet." So Yannick responded, "Just trade me. I don't need the speech." And then Tony Khan kind of hit him with the body bag with "Show me the competition. I'm sure you're really driving up the price today, by the way." So, guys, first of all, what are your general thoughts? Because we haven't really seen an owner and a player go back and forth on Twitter like this. What are your thoughts about how Yannick is A, conducting himself, B, how you think other teams are viewing this, and C, is it affecting the trade compensation? And we'll start with Jason.
I think both parties are wrong. Both parties are right, meaning the Jaguars are doing what they need to do business. It's not personal business. Yannick is doing what he needs to do as someone who, just wants what's good for him and to be on part of a team he wants to play for, and they want him to play for them. A trade will be done. I don't think it's hurting the value. Minkah Fitzpatrick is a similar situation. He ended up getting traded. Jarvis Landry was a similar situation. He did get traded for not a lot of compensation, but Yannick is the premier pass rusher. I think that's why other draft picks are involved here, and that's why we're going to probably find out Wednesday afternoon till Thursday evening is the range for Yannick to go either the Giants, maybe the Dolphins, or maybe even the Eagles, something like that. It's going to be odd. It's going to be weird, but a trade will happen with Yannick on Thursday, I believe.
And yeah, where are you standing on all this?
I'm just glad it's not happening in our franchise, to be honest with you.
But what do you think, GM? Like, if you're a GM looking at this and you're a GM who's looking at trading for him, not only do you have to pay for him, not only do you have to give up assets, but now you got to put up with a guy who is blatantly and openly, airing dirty laundry with the owner's son on a social media form, and he's sitting here talking about his camp when the people in his camp should realistically be turning him and saying, "Let's deal with this privately."
I agree. I mean, I don't. He's showing a level of immaturity by in his approach in terms of trying to facilitate his trade. But I agree, the trade is going to happen. This is just. The trade is going to happen somewhere, like you said, Wednesday, Thursday, and he's just showing. I don't necessarily think it's like killing his trade value, because he is a top, he is a productive player, from a pass rushing perspective. But at the end of the day, no, I don't like to see this, played out publicly like that. But That's these new play. That's this social media era we're in now. Unfortunately, we've seen this scenario play out more often than we would like. So, but I don't think he's an option for the Dolphins, especially considering what they addressed, who they brought in free agency, and I don't think he's an ideal scheme fit anyway. So we talked about this.
I really am. I'm going to stick with the Giants. I just think it's not Yannick for a first rounder. It's Yannick and this and that for this and that and that. It's going to be a lot of different combinations. It's not Yannick for the fourth round.
All right. So we're running on about 2 hours and 10 minutes, guys. So we'll just get into a few comments and any questions you have that I want to field. So Kyle Burke says Yannick isn't worth first round compensation.
Agreed. It's the package. It's the overall package.
And Kiana has a good point here too. And shout out to Kiana because she's always showing love on Twitter. She says it's always the player's fault. That franchise is ashamed. And you know what, Kiana? With the Jalen Ramsey stuff, you have a point. You know what I mean? I think that's why a lot of people aren't really jumping on Yannick as much as they would have if the Jalen Ramsey stuff didn't happen and they hadn't handled previous players. I think if they had a clean slate, Yannick would kind of be being looked down upon a lot more. But you'd be surprised. A lot more people are saying kind of what Jason is saying in terms of they're both wrong in their own way and they're both right in their own way. I am seeing that a lot. So my thing is the guy wants probably like $18 to $20 million. So I mean, that's where I'm at with Yannick Ngakoue, and I agree with EM. I don't think it's really a scheme fit, but I do think he is a scheme fit for what the Giants are trying to do and what Jason suggested in his mock draft. But guys, any last thoughts before we get out of here?
Go ahead, EM.
Man, can you believe it's almost here? 2 days away. Oh my God. Man. Yeah, I just want to thank you, bro, for coming out today, man. And hopefully this is something that we'll definitely entertain more in the future. And I want to apologize for my tardiness to the show this evening. I had life stuff. So I had some life things going on. So, but yeah, man, it's greatly appreciated. I can speak for reasons where we both respect you and we both follow your work. And absolutely, we're just looking forward to future endeavors, and we'll see more of this, having you on more in the future, bro.
I appreciate that very much, sir, and you guys are really doing great. The show was extremely enjoyable, and I think that this, as an organization, as a fan base, as a group, as a community, we're going to be okay. And I just think there's too much assets, there's too many opportunity to mess it up. So whatever happens. We'll talk about it. You guys are always welcome over on PhinManiacs, and I really, truly appreciate this, guys. An awesome way to kick off draft week. Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
No problem, Jason. It was a pleasure having you as usual. And just so everyone knows, me and Jason have kind of been talking, and once this draft season dies down a little bit, I'm probably going to contribute some written work to PhinManiacs. So be on the lookout for that. But go subscribe to him at Orange Aquaman. He's always posting his thoughts. They're always intriguing. They're always interesting. He's always posting his opinions, and he's always posting the work because he's busting his hump over at PhinManiac to really kind of do like I don't want to say a makeover, but kind of like redefine and revitalize what's going on over there, and he's doing a great job. In terms of what we're doing over here, guys, on Wednesday we're going to be back for mock draft 2.0, our final mock draft before obviously the draft on Thursday. Then Thursday and Friday for day 1 and day 2, you can catch us while the draft is going on live. Me and EM are going to be over on TD Fins Talk, contributing the way we contribute, draft specialists, all that kind of jazz, going by pick through pick. And then Friday, guys, during the day, we are going to be going live for the day 1 recap of the draft, me and EM on this channel. And then on Saturday, me and EM are going to be going live again for the day 2 recap of the draft. So we're still going to be having draft content over here, even though we're over on TD Fins Talk. And yeah, man, we got some things coming on. A guy everyone knows we're going to be bringing on here to go over a certain position. I won't give it away because you guys are all going to know who it is, all you guys from the other platform. So we're going to go over a certain position with that guy and the future outlook. And then I'm working on something right now. We're going to be bringing on I don't want to give away the name or anything, but I'm going to be bringing on another scout analyst about 2 weeks after the draft, and we're going to go over the offensive line, and we're going to also go over with what we do in terms of quarterback in the draft, guys. So we got a lot of content coming for you, and we still got that EM show based upon the edge evaluations of Kyle Van Noy, Emmanuel Ogbah, and Shaq Lawson, the evaluations of the players' athletic profiles, how they fit the scheme and the overall signings, how good of a signing they were. That show was still going to be fit in there somewhere. So we got a lot of coming, guys. We appreciate all the love. We've only been at this since, March 19th, and we've already got over 85,000 minutes viewed by all of you guys. So nothing but love and appreciation. We appreciate the support. There's nothing like it. I don't know what to say, guys. We love doing this for you, and we just hope you guys all love tuning in. But we're going to get out of here. I hope everyone has a good Monday night. Stay healthy, stay safe, and we wish you nothing but the best, guys. Thanks again to Jason for coming on, and nothing else to say, guys, except fins up, right? So
fins up all day, every day.